The shuttle dropped through thick orange clouds, and Una Park pressed her face against the small window. Below her, the planet Kareth Prime stretched out like a wound in space. Dark forests covered the land. Rivers cut through rock like silver scars. This was the most dangerous world in 12 star systems, and she was going to live on it. The pilot, a creature with 4 arms and no eyes, made a clicking sound. "Human," it said, "you are the replacement." "Yes," Una answered. She was 32 years old. She had spent 10 years studying alien life forms. None of that mattered here. On Kareth Prime, her degrees meant nothing. Her experience meant nothing. She was just another soft human sent to do a job no one else wanted. The shuttle landed hard on a metal platform. Una grabbed her bag and stepped outside. The air smelled like copper and smoke. In front of her stood Outpost Gamma 7, a collection of gray buildings surrounded by high walls and electric fences. Beyond the walls, the forest waited, dark, silent, hungry. A tall creature walked toward her. It had scales the color of rust and eyes that moved in different directions. This was Overseer Koth, a Rilthian. He was in charge of the outpost. "You are the human," Koth said. It was not a question. "Una Park, xenobiologist." Koth made a sound like stones grinding together. "The last xenobiologist lasted 3 weeks. The one before that lasted 2 days. The one before that did not last at all." "What happened to them?" Una asked. "They requested evacuation, or they died." Koth turned and walked toward the main building. "Come, I will show you your work." Una followed him through metal doors and down long hallways. The outpost was cold and gray. Everything smelled like cleaning chemicals and fear. Other workers moved past them without looking up. There were Rilthians, small furry creatures she did not recognize, and machines that walked on many legs. No other humans. Koth stopped at a large window. Beyond the glass, Una could see the forest clearly now. The trees were twice as tall as any on Earth. Their bark was black. Their leaves were red. "This is why we are here," Koth said. "The Veth." Una knew about the Veth. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the Veth. They were the reason no one colonized this part of space. They were the reason ships disappeared. They were the reason children on 100 worlds learned to fear the dark. 6 limbs, Koth continued. 3 meters tall, scales that can stop plasma fire, claws that can cut through starship metal. They are the perfect predators. They hunt everything. They fear nothing, and they cannot be controlled. "I read the files," Una said. "Files are words. The Veth are real." Koth's eyes both focused on her for the first time. "Your job is to observe them, record their behavior, stay alive. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good. Do not leave the outpost without permission. Do not approach the Veth under any circumstances. Do not make loud sounds near the perimeter. And human," Koth leaned closer, "do not expect to make friends here. The Veth killed my predecessor's entire team. We do not like humans, but we do not want to clean up another body." Una did not answer. She just looked out the window at the forest. That night she could not sleep. Her room was small and the bed was hard and the walls made strange sounds. She lay in the darkness and listened to the world outside. Somewhere far away, something screamed. Then something else screamed louder. Then silence. She thought about her mother back on Earth. Her mother had cried when Una told her about this assignment. "Why do you always go to dangerous places?" she had asked. "Why can't you study something safe, something that doesn't want to eat you?" Una had not known how to answer that question. She still did not know. The next morning, she began her work. She sat in the observation room and watched screens that showed cameras placed throughout the forest. She saw small creatures running through the undergrowth. She saw birds with too many wings. She saw things she could not name doing things she could not understand. And then she saw the Veth. It moved between the trees like a shadow made solid. Its body was covered in scales that looked like black glass. 6 limbs carried it forward in a motion that was both beautiful and terrible. Its head turned toward the camera and Yuna saw its eyes. Yellow, bright, intelligent. It knew it was being watched, and it did not care. For 3 months, Yuna observed the Veth. She learned their patterns. She learned their hunting grounds. She learned that they were not animals. They were something more, something that thought, something that planned, something that remembered. Then came the day that changed everything. Yuna was doing a perimeter check near the eastern wall. This was allowed. The area was safe. Scanners showed no Veth activity for kilometers. She walked along the fence line, recording data on her tablet when she heard a sound. It was small, weak, a cry that did not belong in this world of predators and death. She followed the sound. She knew she should not. She knew the rule, but the sound was so small, so lost. Behind a collapsed pile of rocks, she found them. 3 cubs, Veth cubs. They were the size of large dogs covered in dark scales that had not yet hardened. Their eyes were still cloudy. They could barely walk. Near them lay a larger body, an adult Veth torn apart by claws and teeth. The mother, killed by a rival pack. The cubs cried again. They were hungry, they were cold, they were dying. Yuna knew what she was supposed to do. She was supposed to walk away. She was supposed to let nature take its course. Veth cubs were considered the most dangerous creatures in the known galaxy. They were unpredictable. They were aggressive. They killed handlers on every world that had tried to study them. She was supposed to leave them to die. Yuna looked at the cubs. They looked back at her with their cloudy yellow eyes. One of them, the smallest one, crawled toward her. It made a sound that was almost like a question. She reached down and picked it up. It was warm. It was trembling. It pressed its face against her chest. "Okay," she said softly. "Okay." She gathered all 3 of them in her arms and carried them back to the outpost. Overseer Koth found her in the medical bay an hour later. His scales had turned a shade of purple she had never seen before. This, she would learn, meant extreme anger. "What have you done?" he demanded. "They were dying." "They are Veth, they should die. It is the natural order." "Not anymore," Yuna said. She was feeding the smallest cub with a nutrient solution she had mixed herself. The cub drank greedily, its tiny claws gripping her arm. "I'm keeping them." "You cannot keep Veth. No one keeps Veth. They are monsters." Yuna looked up at him. "They're bobbies. They will grow into monsters. They will kill you. They will kill all of us." "Maybe," Yuna said. "Or maybe not. No one has ever really tried to raise them, not properly." Koth stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned and walked away. "I am reporting this to the Galactic Council. They will make you destroy them. And when the cubs kill you first, I will not say I am sorry." That night, Yuna sat on the floor of her room with 3 Veth cubs crawling around her. They were clumsy. They bumped into walls. They fell over their own feet. The largest one kept trying to bite everything it could reach. The middle one watched her with careful eyes. The smallest one just wanted to be held. She needed to name them. "You," she said to the largest one. He turned his head toward her, showing teeth that were already sharp. "You're T." The middle one made a clicking sound. "And you're Hana." The smallest one was already asleep in her lap. "And you're Wu." As if they understood, all 3 cubs went still. They looked at her. She looked at them. Then T lunged at her throat. It happened so fast. One moment he was across the room. The next moment his claws were at her neck, his teeth inches from her face. This was the moment every handler had experienced. The moment the Veth cub remembered what it was. The moment it killed. Yuna did not scream. She did not run. She did not even move. She just said his name. "T." The cub stopped. His claws were touching her skin. His breath was hot on her face, but he did not strike. "T," she said again, softer this time. Something changed in his yellow eyes. The killing instinct faded. Something else took its place. Something no one had ever seen in a Veth before. He pulled back. He sat down. He made a sound that was almost like an apology. Yuna reached out and touched his head. He let her. "Good boy," she whispered. Across the galaxy, in 100 research stations, scientists would have said this was impossible. Veth cubs could not be stopped once they started an attack. It was in their blood. It was in their bones. But Yuna had done something no scientist had ever tried. She had given him a name. She had made him someone, not something. And in that moment, everything the galaxy believed about the Veth began to change. 3 months passed on Kareth Prime. The orange cloud still rolled across the sky. The dark forest still whispered with danger. The Veth still hunted in the shadows beyond the walls. But inside Outpost Gamma 7, something had changed. Something that made no sense. The cubs were growing. Yuna woke every morning at the same time. She prepared food for T, Hana, and Wu before she ate anything herself. She cleaned their space. She checked their health. She talked to them constantly, even when they did not seem to understand. At first, the other workers at the outpost avoided her. They thought she was crazy. They thought she was going to die. They placed bets on how long she would survive. The most anyone gave her was 2 weeks. But 2 weeks passed, then a month, then 2 months, and Yuna was still alive. More than alive, she was thriving, and so were her cubs. T was the largest of the 3. His scales had hardened into something that looked like polished obsidian. He was already the size of a large wolf, and he was still growing. He had a temper. He liked to growl at anything that moved. He often tried to challenge Yuna to test her strength. But he never hurt her, not once. Hana was the clever one. Her eyes missed nothing. She watched everything Yuna did with an intensity that was almost unsettling. She learned faster than the others. When Yuna organized her tools, Hana would try to organize them too. When Yuna locked the door at night, Hana would check the lock after her. One day, Yuna found Hana trying to brush her own scales with a cleaning tool. It took her a moment to realize what Hana was doing. She was copying Yuna. She was grooming herself the way Yuna groomed her hair. Wu was the smallest and the weakest. He had almost died 3 times in the first month. His body did not process food as well as the others. His scales were thinner. He was always cold. The Veth survival instinct said he should be abandoned. The pack did not carry weak members. But Yuna was not a pack. She was something else. She spent extra hours with Wu. She made special food for him. She let him sleep in her bed when he was too cold to sleep alone. She held him when he was scared. She told him he was strong even when they both knew he was not. Slowly, Wu got better. He was still the smallest. He would always be the smallest. But he stopped almost dying. And he followed Yuna everywhere she went, pressing against her leg like a shadow that loved her. The other workers at the outpost started to notice. They stopped avoiding Yuna. They started watching her instead. They stood at windows and doorways, staring at the impossible thing happening in front of them. Veth cubs did not play. Everyone knew this. Veth cubs fought. They practiced killing. They attacked anything that moved. But T, Hana, and Wu played. They chased each other around Yuna's quarters. They pounced on toys she made from spare parts. They rolled on their backs and kicked their 6 legs in the air when she scratched their bellies. Veth cubs did not come when called. Everyone knew this. Veth cubs did what they wanted. They answered to no one. But when Yuna said their names, the cubs came. Every time, without fail. They would stop whatever they were doing and hurry to her side. T would arrive first because he was fastest. Hana would arrive second because she was always thinking. Wu would arrive last because he was slow, but he always arrived. One day, a delivery drone arrived at the outpost. It came through the ceiling hatch, its engine screaming as it descended. The sound startled T. His instincts took over. His scales bristled. His claws extended. He launched himself at the drone, ready to destroy the threat. Yuna stepped between them. Everyone who saw it expected her to die. T was in full predator mode. His body was a weapon. Nothing stopped a Veth attack. Nothing. But T saw her. He saw his human standing in his path, and in the middle of his strike he changed direction. He twisted his body at an impossible angle. He crashed into the wall instead of hitting her. The wall bent. T lay on the floor, stunned. Yuna knelt beside him. "Are you okay?" T made a sound. It was soft, confused. He had hurt himself to avoid hurting her. He did not understand why. But Yuna understood. She rubbed his head and told him he was good. She told him she was proud of him. She told him she loved him. T pressed his face against her hand. His scales were warm. The workers who witnessed this did not speak for a long time. Overseer Koth was not happy about any of this. He sent reports to the Galactic Council every week. He demanded that the cubs be removed. He warned that this experiment would end in disaster. He said Yuna was violating 17 different protocols and probably 12 more that had not been invented yet. The council listened. The council watched. The council waited. And then the council sent someone. His name was Seokjin Cho. He was a Rilthian, but he had been raised by humans. This was extremely rare. Rilthians did not usually trust humans. They thought humans were weak and emotional and foolish. But Seokjin's parents had died when he was young, and a human family on a colony world had taken him in. He understood both worlds. He understood both kinds of thinking. He arrived at the outpost on a gray morning. Yuna met him at the landing pad. She did not trust visitors, especially visitors from the council. "I am not here to hurt your cubs," Seokjin said. His voice was softer than other Rilthians. "I am here to warn you." They walked to Yuna's quarters. The cubs were inside. When the door opened, all three of them moved toward Yuna. T positioned himself in front of her. Hana watched Seokjin with suspicious eyes. Wu hid behind Yuna's legs. "They are protecting you," Seokjin said. There was wonder in his voice. "I have studied Veth for 20 years. I have never seen anything like this." "They are just cubs," Yuna said. "No, they are Veth, the most dangerous predators in 12 star systems, and they are protecting a human. Do you understand what this means?" Yuna shook her head. Seokjin sat down slowly, making himself small so the cubs would not see him as a threat. "The council is scared. They have spent thousands of years telling everyone that Veth cannot be controlled, cannot be reasoned with, cannot be tamed. Your cubs prove that everything they said was wrong." "I did not tame them," Yuna said. "Then what did you do?" Yuna thought about this for a long time. She watched T settle down by the door, still watching the visitor. She watched Hana return to her corner, where she had been organizing small objects into patterns. She watched Wu creep out from behind her and curl up at her feet. "I gave them names," she finally said. "I talked to them, I fed them, I kept them warm. I did not treat them like monsters, I treated them like family." "You loved them?" "Yes." Seokjin was quiet for a moment. "The council does not understand love. Most species do not the way humans do. You attach yourselves to things. You care too much. We have always thought this was a weakness." "Maybe it is," Yuna said. "No," Seokjin looked at the cubs again. "I am starting to think it might be your greatest strength." He stood up to leave. T growled softly as he moved but did not attack. "A delegation is coming," Seokjin said at the door. "Representatives from 5 species. They want to see your cubs for themselves. They want to decide what to do with them." "What will they decide?" "I do not know. Some will want to destroy the cubs. They think they are too dangerous to exist. Some will want to take them for study. They think they can learn how to control other Veth." Seokjin paused. "And some will want to destroy you too. They think you have done something unnatural, something that should not be possible." "I just loved them," Yuna said again. "Yes, and that is what scares them most." Seokjin walked out into the orange light. "Prepare yourself, Yuna Park. The whole galaxy is about to watch what you have done, and not everyone will want it to succeed." That night Yuna did not sleep. She sat on the floor with her cubs around her. T lay across the doorway, guarding them. Hana sat beside her, leaning against her shoulder. Wu slept in her lap, warm and safe. She thought about what Seokjin had said. She thought about the council. She thought about the delegation that was coming. She was scared. She would not pretend otherwise. She was one human with 3 predator cubs on a planet at the edge of known space. She had no power. She had no allies. She had no way to fight if the council decided to take her cubs away. But she also had something else, something the council did not understand. She had T, she had Hana, she had Wu. She had family. And humans, as the galaxy would soon learn, did not give up their families without a fight. Yuna held Wu a little tighter. In his sleep, the small cub made a sound that was almost like a purr. "Whatever happens," she whispered to them, "I will not let them hurt you, I promise." Outside, the forest was dark and quiet, but somewhere in the trees, yellow eyes were watching. Wild Veth, moving closer to the outpost than they had ever come before. Something was changing on Karath Prime. Something was beginning. The delegation arrived on the coldest day of the year. 5 ships came down through the orange clouds, each one carrying representatives from a different species. Each species had lost colonists to the Veth. Each species wanted answers. Yuna stood at the landing pad and watched them come. Overseer Koth stood beside her, his scales showing colors she had never seen before. He was nervous. Everyone was nervous. The first to step off the ships was the Arbiter. It was a crystalline being, tall and sharp, made of something that looked like living glass. When it moved, light bent around it in strange ways. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. "You are the human," the Arbiter said. "Yes." "You have Veth cubs." "Yes." "Show us." Yuna led them through the outpost to the containment yard. This was the largest space they had, surrounded by high walls and energy barriers. The cubs were inside, waiting. They had been locked there since morning. They did not like it. Through the thick glass window, the delegates could see them clearly. T paced along the far wall, his claws scraping the ground. Hana sat in the center, watching the observers with cold eyes. Wu pressed himself into a corner, shaking. "They look dangerous," one of the delegates said. It was a small creature covered in purple fur. "They look like they want to kill us." "They do not like strangers," Yuna said. "They do not like being locked up. They can sense that something is wrong." The Arbiter moved closer to the glass. "These are infants. They are adolescents now, almost 6 months old. At this age, a normal Veth would have killed at least 12 times. It would be hunting independently. It would be completely feral." The Arbiter turned to face Yuna. "You claim these cubs are different." "I do not claim anything. I am showing you what is true." "Then prove it. Demonstrate your control over them." The word made Yuna angry. "I do not control them." "Then what do you do?" "I care for them, I guide them. They choose to listen." The Arbiter made a sound like breaking ice. "Choice. Veth do not choose. Veth follow instinct. You speak nonsense, human." Overseer Koth stepped forward. "With respect, Arbiter, I have watched this human for many months. What she has done should not be possible, but it is real. The cubs obey her commands, they protect her, he seemed to struggle with the next word. "They love her." "Love," the Arbiter said the word like it tasted bad. "Another human weakness. Love does not stop predators. Love does not change nature." "Maybe it does," Yuna said quietly. The Arbiter ignored her. It turned to the other delegates. "We have seen enough. The cubs are dangerous. They will grow larger. They will grow stronger. And eventually their instincts will take over. They will kill this human and anyone else nearby. The only safe choice is to destroy them now." "No," Yuna stepped forward. "You cannot do that." "We can. We have authority over all matters related to galactic safety. These creatures are a threat. They are children. They are monsters. They are my family." The room went silent. The delegates stared at Yuna. Even Overseer Koth looked shocked. Family, the Arbiter repeated. You would claim kinship with beasts. You would call them your blood. Blood is not what makes family, Yuna said. Choice is, love is. I chose them and they chose me. That makes us family. Then you are as mad as we feared. The Arbiter raised one crystalline arm. Security drones will enter the containment yard. The cubs will be neutralized. You will be taken for psychological evaluation. This experiment is over. Wait, the voice came from Siakjin. He had been standing in the back, silent until now. Before you act, Arbiter, should you not see evidence? Should you not witness what this human has actually accomplished? We have seen the cubs, that is enough. You have seen them locked up, stressed, frightened. You have not seen them with her. Siakjin moved to stand beside Yuna. If you destroy these cubs based on fear alone, you will never know if something better was possible. Is that not what the Council claims to stand for? Discovery, progress. The Arbiter was silent for a long moment. The other delegates whispered among themselves. Very well, the Arbiter finally said. The human may attempt to demonstrate this bond she claims exists, but if she fails, if the cubs show any sign of aggression, we will act immediately. Yuna nodded. Her heart was pounding, her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. Open the gate. The security officer hesitated. The cubs will attack. They always attack. Open the gate. The officer looked at the Arbiter. The Arbiter nodded once. The gate opened. For a moment, nothing happened. The cubs stood inside the yard, staring at the opening. T's scales began to bristle. Hana lowered herself into a hunting stance. Wu pressed deeper into his corner. Then they saw the delegates. They saw the security drones. They saw the weapons pointed at them. And they went feral. T roared first. It was a sound that made the walls shake. His scales stood up like 1,000 knives. He launched himself at the gate, claws extended, teeth bared. Hana was right behind him, moving low and fast. Even Wu was snarling now, his fear transformed into rage. This is what they truly are, the Arbiter shouted. Monsters, kill them now. The security drones powered up their weapons. The delegates backed away in terror. Overseer Koth covered his face with his hands. And Yuna walked forward. She did not run. She did not hide. She walked toward the gate, toward the three predators who were seconds away from breaking through. Humans, stop, the Arbiter commanded. You will die. Yuna did not stop. She walked until she was standing directly in front of the gate. The cubs were right there. She could feel the heat of their breath. She could see every scale, every claw, every tooth. They were beautiful. They were terrifying. They were hers. She spoke 3 names, softly, calmly, like she was calling them for dinner. T. Hana, Wu. The effect was immediate. T stopped mid-roar. His scales flattened, his claws retracted, his eyes, which had been wild and golden, focused on her, only her. Hana rose from her hunting stance. She sat down, wrapping her tail around her legs. She made a soft clicking sound that Yuna knew meant recognition. Wu pushed past his siblings. He pressed his body against the gate, not to break it, but to get closer to her. He was crying. That small sound she had first heard in the forest. The sound of a lost cub calling for its mother. Yuna opened the gate herself. The delegates screamed. The security drones aimed their weapons. Everyone expected death. But death did not come. Instead, 3 Veth cubs surrounded their human. T pressed his great head against her chest. Hana circled around her, checking for threats. Wu wrapped himself around her legs and would not let go. And from deep in their chests came a sound. It was low, it was rhythmic, it vibrated through the floor. Siakjin recognized it first. His scales went white with shock. They are purring, he whispered. The Veth are purring. No one had ever heard a Veth purr. In 10,000 years of records across all the studies and observations, No one had ever documented this sound. It was believed that Veth did not have the ability to express contentment. They were predators. They knew only hunger and violence. But here in this moment, 3 Veth cubs were purring for a human, because she had called their names, because they loved her, because she was their family. The Arbiter said nothing for a very long time. Finally it spoke. This changes nothing. This is one human, one moment. The cubs will still grow. They will still become dangerous. Maybe, Yuna said. She was still holding T's head, still feeling Wu's warmth against her legs. Or maybe everything the galaxy believes about the Veth is wrong. Maybe they were always capable of this. Maybe no one ever tried the right way. The right way. Love, patience, names. Yuna looked at the Arbiter directly. You call these things weaknesses, but look at what they have done. Look at what is possible when someone cares enough to try. The Arbiter did not answer, but something in its crystalline form flickered. Uncertainty, doubt. The other delegates were staring at the cubs with new expressions. Not fear, not hatred, something else, something that might have been hope. We will discuss this, the Arbiter finally said. The Council will deliberate, but the cubs will not be destroyed today. It was not a victory. Yuna knew that. It was just a delay. The Council would talk, some would argue for her, many would argue against. The future was uncertain. But today her cubs were alive. Today she had shown the galaxy something it had never seen before. Today the Veth had purred. That night Yuna sat in her quarters with T, Hana, and Wu. They were too big now to all fit comfortably. T took up most of the floor. Hana had claimed the corner. Wu had somehow squeezed himself onto the bed beside Yuna. We did it, she told them. We showed them. T made a rumbling sound. Hana clicked in agreement. Wu was already asleep, pressed against her side. Outside the window, Yuna could see the forest, and in the trees, yellow eyes glowed in the darkness. More Veth, wild Veth, watching the outpost. Watching her. Something was happening. Something bigger than one human and 3 cubs. Something that would change everything. Yuna did not know what was coming, but she knew one thing. Whatever it was, she would not face it alone. She had her family, and that was enough. 6 months had passed since the delegation came and went. The galaxy had changed. Yuna had changed. Everything had changed. The video of her walking toward the feral cubs had spread across every network in known space. Billions of beings on 1,000 worlds had watched a small human woman call 3 names and stop 3 monsters in their tracks. They had heard the purring. They had seen the impossible. Some called her a hero. Some called her a fool. Some called her a threat to everything the galaxy believed about safety and order. Debates raged in council chambers and on street corners. Arguments broke out in schools and governments and homes. But on Kareth Prime, Yuna did not care about debates. She cared about her cubs. T, Hana, and Wu were no longer cubs. They were adolescents now, almost full-grown. T was massive, nearly 3 meters long from nose to tail. His scales had become so dark they seemed to absorb light. His claws could cut through metal. He was everything a Veth was supposed to be. And he still came when she called his name. Hana had grown clever in ways that sometimes frightened Yuna. She had learned to open doors. She had learned to operate simple machines. She watched the other workers at the outpost and copied their behaviors. Once, Yuna found her attempting to use a communication console. No one could explain how she knew what it was. Wu was still the smallest, but he was no longer weak. He had grown strong in his own way. He was faster than the others. He could squeeze into spaces they could not reach. And his devotion to Yuna had not changed at all. He still followed her everywhere. He still slept against her side. He still made that purring sound whenever she touched him. The outpost had changed too. Yuna was no longer an outcast. The other workers spoke to her now. Some of them even smiled. Overseer Koth had stopped sending angry reports to the council. He still did not like what Yuna had done, but he could not deny the results. And something else was happening, something strange. The wild Veth were coming closer. Every night Yuna saw more yellow eyes in the forest. Every morning she found new tracks around the perimeter. The wild packs were watching her. They were watching her cubs. They seemed to be waiting for something. This has never happened before, Siakjin told her during one of his visits. Wild Veth avoid outposts. They avoid all contact with other species, but they are drawn to you. Not to me, Yuna said. To them. She pointed at her cubs who were playing in the yard. They can sense that something is different. They can sense that T and Hana and Wu are not like them. Or they can sense that they are exactly like them, Siakjin said. Just raised differently, given a chance that wild Veth never have. The thought stayed with Yuna for a long time. Then came the message that changed everything. It arrived in the middle of the night. Yuna was asleep with Wu curled against her when her communication device started screaming. She grabbed it and saw a face she had not seen in almost a year. Her brother D. Yuna, his voice was shaking. You need to come home. What happened? Is Mother okay? Mother is fine, for now. D looked over his shoulder like he was afraid someone was listening. The council voted. The Arbiter's faction won. They declared humans a contamination risk. They said we are too dangerous to have contact with other species. Yuna felt cold. What does that mean? They are sending a fleet to blockade Earth, 3,000 ships. They are going to trap us here. No trade, no communication, no escape. D's eyes were wet. They are punishing all of humanity because of you, Yuna, because of what you did. The call ended. Yuna sat in the darkness, unable to move. Her brother's words echoed in her head, punishing all of humanity because of her, because she had loved 3 cubs, because she had shown the galaxy that its beliefs were wrong. And now her home world was under siege. Her mother, her brother, her entire species trapped because she had refused to let 3 small creatures die in a forest. She should have felt guilty, part of her did, but a larger part felt something else. Anger. The council had not done this because she was wrong. They had done it because she was right. They had done it because they were scared, scared of humans, scared of change, scared of love. Yuna stood up. Wu made a questioning sound. I have to go, she told him. I have to go home. The next few days were the hardest of her life. She arranged transport. She gathered supplies. She said goodbye to the workers who had become almost like friends. She thanked Siakjin for everything he had done. And then she had to face her cubs. They knew something was wrong. Animals always knew, even animals that were not really animals anymore. T watched her pack with suspicious eyes. Hana followed her from room to room, clicking anxiously. Wu would not leave her side for even a moment. The morning of her departure, Yuna took them to the yard one last time. I have to leave, she told them. She did not know if they understood her words, but she knew they understood her tone. There are bad things happening far away. My family needs me. My other family. T made a sound. It was low and unhappy. I know I do not want to go either, but I have to. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. I will come back, I promise. Wait for me. She turned toward the shuttle. T moved to block her path. T, her voice was gentle but firm. Move. He did not move. His scales were flat, not aggressive, but his body was solid. He was not attacking, he was just refusing. Hana joined him. She sat down in front of the shuttle door and looked at Yuna with those clever eyes. No clicking, no movement, just refusal. And then Wu. He did not stand in her way. Instead, he walked to the shuttle door and lay down across it. His body covered the entrance completely. His eyes closed. He looked like he was sleeping, except for the tears running down his scales. Veth could cry. No one had known that either. Yuna knelt beside him. Wu, little one, please. He made a sound. that small, lost sound from the forest, the first sound she had ever heard from him, the sound of a cub who did not want to be alone. "I have to go," she whispered, "but I will come back. I swear on everything I am, I will come back to you." Slowly, painfully, Wu moved aside. T stepped out of her path. Hana stood up and walked away, not looking at her. Yuna boarded the shuttle. She did not look back. She could not. As the shuttle rose into the orange sky, she pressed her face against the window. Below, she could see the outpost getting smaller. She could see the forest spreading out like a dark ocean, and she could see 3 shapes standing in the yard, watching her leave. Hana Wu. Her cubs, her family, the ones she was leaving behind. "I will come back," she said again, even though they could not hear her. "Wait for me." The shuttle broke through the clouds. Kareth Prime disappeared below. Stars filled the window. Yuna was alone. Back at the outpost, 3 Veth stood in the yard for a long time after the shuttle vanished. They did not move. They did not make sounds. They just stood there, staring at the sky. Then T raised his head and made a sound that had never been heard before. It was not a roar. It was not a growl. It was something else. Something between a howl and a cry. Something that spoke of loss and longing and a promise to wait. Hana joined him, then Wu. 3 Veth voices rose into the orange sky. The sound carried across the outpost. It carried into the forest. It carried to the wild Veth watching from the trees. And the wild Veth answered. First 1 voice, then 10, then 100, howls and cries from every direction. The whole forest was singing. The whole planet was singing. The workers in the outpost covered their ears and trembled. They had never heard anything like this. No one had. It was the sound of the Veth doing something they were not supposed to do. Mourning, calling, waiting. In the sky far above, Yuna heard nothing. She was already too far away, but somehow, deep in her heart, she felt it. That connection that science could not explain. That bond that the council could not understand. Her cubs were calling for her. And somewhere across the stars, she whispered back, "Wait for me, I am coming home." Earth had never felt smaller. Yuna stood on the observation deck of her mother's apartment in Seoul, looking up at the sky. It was night, and the stars should have been visible, but they were not. Instead, she could see something else. Tiny points of light that moved in patterns no star ever followed. Ships, thousands of them, the blockade fleet. 3 weeks had passed since she returned home, 3 weeks of fear and anger and waiting. The coalition had surrounded Earth with more firepower than humanity had ever seen. No ships could leave. No communications could pass. Earth was a prison, and 8 billion people were trapped inside. Her mother sat behind her, wrapped in blankets even though the night was warm. Nari was 70 years old now, small and thin and tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "You should not have come back," Nari said. "I had to." "No, you had to stay with those creatures. Your creatures, they need you." Yuna turned to face her mother. "You need me too." "I am old. I have lived my life." Nari pulled the blankets tighter. "Those bobbies you raised, they have not lived yet, and now you have left them alone." The words hurt because they were true. Yuna thought about T, Hana, and Wu every moment of every day. She dreamed about them at night. She woke up reaching for Wu, forgetting he was not there. She had made a promise. She had told them she would come back. But how? The blockade was complete. Nothing got in or out. The coalition had made it clear. Humanity would stay isolated forever. The galaxy had decided that humans were too dangerous, too emotional, too capable of doing impossible things, too good at loving monsters. Her brother D came to visit the next morning. He looked older than when she had seen him on the communication screen. He had joined the resistance, such as it was. A few old ships, a few brave pilots, nothing that could fight 3,000 warships. "The Council is demanding your surrender," D said. They say if you turn yourself in for re-education, they might lift the blockade. Might. They are lying. We all know they are lying. They want you because they are afraid of you. They will never let Earth go free. Yuna knew he was right. This was not about her anymore. It was about fear. The Council feared what she represented. They feared a galaxy where humans could bond with monsters. They feared a universe where love was stronger than instinct. They would never stop being afraid. That night, Yuna could not sleep. She stood on the observation deck again, watching the blockade fleet move in slow circles around her world. She thought about her cubs. She thought about the wild Veth watching from the forest. She thought about Siakjin and his wonder at the impossible. And she remembered something. Before she left Kareth Prime, she had recorded a message. It was meant only for her cubs, in case something happened and she could not return. She had given a copy to Siakjin and asked him to play it for them sometimes, to let them hear her voice, to remind them that she loved them. If anyone threatens my family, she had said in that recording, protect them. They are Pack. Pack, a human word that the Veth should not have understood, but her cubs had understood everything else she taught them. Maybe they understood that too. Maybe. The thought was crazy, impossible, stupid. But so was raising Veth cubs. So was making predators purr. So was everything she had done since that day in the forest when she heard a small sound and did not walk away. Yuna went back inside and tried to sleep. She was dreaming of Kareth Prime when the alarms started. They were loud and terrible, the kind of alarms that meant the world was ending. Yuna jumped out of bed and ran to the window. Outside, people were screaming. Ships were firing into the sky. The blockade was attacking. Except it was not. Yuna looked up and saw something impossible. The blockade was breaking apart, not being destroyed, being pushed aside. Something was moving through the fleet, something so large that it blocked out the stars, something that the warships could not stop. Pods, hundreds of them, organic shapes that moved through space without engines. Veth transit pods used for long migration journeys. No one had seen a Veth migration in 3,000 years. And at the head of the swarm, three shapes larger than the rest. Tihana Wu. They had come. Yuna ran. She ran out of the apartment, down the stairs, through the streets filled with panicking people. She ran toward the open park where the pods were landing. She did not know how she knew that was where they would land. She just knew. The first pod opened as she arrived. T emerged, nearly 4 meters tall now, his scales gleaming in the emergency lights. He looked different, older, harder, but when he saw her, he made a sound. That low rumble she remembered, that purr that should have been impossible. Hana came next, moving carefully, her clever eyes scanning everything. And then Wu, still the smallest, but massive compared to the cub she had held in her arms. He pushed past his siblings and ran to her, pressing his huge head against her chest so hard she nearly fell. "You came," she whispered, "you came." The coalition fleet was in chaos. Ships were trying to regroup, to form defensive lines, to do something. But the Veth did not attack. They just waited. Hundreds of them floating in space around Earth, silent and still. A transmission broadcast across all frequencies. Every screen on Earth showed the same image. The Arbiter, its crystalline form flickering with rage. "This is an act of war," the Arbiter declared. "The Veth have aligned with humans. This is exactly what we feared. All species must unite against this threat. We must destroy Earth and the Veth together before they destroy us." But another voice answered, a voice that Yuna recognized. "Siakjin." "There is no threat," Siakjin said. His transmission appeared on half the screens in the galaxy. "The Veth have not come to attack, they have come to protect. Look at them. They are not fighting. They are not hunting. They are guarding. Because a human taught them that love is stronger than instinct. Because a human gave them names." The galaxy watched. Billions of beings on 1,000 worlds saw the footage. They saw the massive Veth surrounding Earth. They saw the warships holding position, too afraid to fire. They saw three enormous predators standing around a single small human woman, purring loud enough to shake the ground. The coalition fleet commander requested orders from the council. The council did not respond. What could they say? They had built their empire on the belief that Veth were uncontrollable monsters. Now the monsters were proving them wrong. "They are pack," Una said. Her voice was being broadcast too. She did not know how. Maybe Siakjan had arranged it. "When I raised my cubs, I told them that family protects family. I told them that pack means never being alone." She looked up at the ships above. "I am human. My cubs are Veth, and all of humanity is my family, my pack. So the Veth are here to protect their pack." Silence across 1,000 worlds. Then slowly the coalition fleet began to withdraw. One ship at first, then 10, then 100. The warships turned and accelerated away from Earth, away from the Veth, away from the impossible thing they could not fight. Not because the Veth were strong. They were strong, but strength alone had never saved anyone. Because the Veth had chosen. They had chosen love over instinct, family over violence, a human who had given them names over a galaxy that had called them monsters. The blockade ended that night. The coalition was forced to recognize humanity's place in the galaxy, not as primitives, not as a threat, as the species that had done the impossible. The Arbiter resigned. The Council reformed. And across 12 star systems, beings began to wonder what else might be possible if someone loved something enough to try. On Earth, the sun rose on a new day. Una stood in the park with her cubs. T lay beside her, his massive body warm against the morning cold. Hana sat nearby, watching the sky with those clever eyes. Wu had somehow curled himself into her lap, despite being large enough to crush her. Her mother Nari came to find her there. The old woman moved slowly, supported by D. She stopped when she saw the Veth. "You raised those?" Nari asked. "I just gave them names," Una said. "They raised themselves." Nari studied the cubs for a long moment. T lifted his head and studied her back. Then, very slowly, the old woman reached out and touched his scales. T did not growl. He did not pull away. He made that rumbling sound and pressed his head into her hand. "They are warm," Nari said, surprised. "They are family," Una answered. Across the park, other humans were gathering. They were scared at first. Veth were monsters. Veth were death. But word had spread about what had happened. Word had spread about the human who raised cubs and the cubs who saved a world. One by one, people came closer. One by one, the wild Veth that had followed T, Hana, and Wu from Kareth Prime allowed themselves to be approached. Not all of them, not at once, but some, a few, the beginning of something new. It would take years, maybe generations. Trust was not built overnight. Love was not learned in a day, but it had started, here in this park on this morning after this impossible night. Humanity and the Veth were packed now. And across the galaxy, species that had never thought twice about humans began to watch more carefully, began to wonder, began to understand something they had always dismissed. Humans were not strong. Humans were not fast. Humans were not armored or clawed or built for war. But when humans loved something, they did not let go. And the things they loved them back. Una sat in the morning light with her cubs around her. She was tired. She was overwhelmed. She was happier than she had ever been. "I told you I would come back," she whispered to Wu. Wu made his small sound, the sound from the forest, the sound of a cub calling for its mother. Only now it meant something different. Now it meant home. Una held him tighter and watched the sun rise on a new world. The end.